I'll never forget the afternoon I witnessed something that still haunts me. It was a cool September day at Riverside Gardens, a modest assisted living community where I'd been volunteering for the past 3 years. What I saw that day changed how I think about family, respect, and the quiet dignity of the elderly. The woman in 12B, Dorothy Johnson, lived in apartment 12B. At 78, she was one of the most unassuming residents at Riverside. She wore the same rotation of floral dresses, kept her silver hair in a simple bun, and spent most afternoons in the community room doing crossword puzzles or knitting scarves for the local shelter. Her apartment was sparsely decorated, a few family photos, a worn armchair, basic furniture that looked like it had survived multiple moves. Most residents didn't pay Dorothy much attention. She wasn't wealthy like Mrs. Patterson in the penthouse suite, who had a private nurse and received weekly flower deliveries. Dorothy's daughter, Jennifer, visited maybe once a month, always in a hurry, always checking her phone. I'd grown fond of Dorothy during my volunteer shifts. She had kind eyes and this gentle way of listening that made you feel heard. Sometimes I'd bring her tea and she'd tell me stories about her late husband, Robert, who'd worked as an accountant for 40 years. Simple stories, ordinary memories, nothing that suggested anything out of the ordinary. Jennifer was supposed to take Dorothy out for her 78th birthday. I remember because Dorothy had mentioned it 3 times that week, each time with this hopeful sparkle in her eyes. She'd gotten her hair done at the in-house salon and wore her good dress, a navy blue number that was probably 20 years old but still elegant. She waited in the lobby for 2 hours. When Jennifer finally arrived, she burst through the doors in designer sunglasses and heels that clicked sharply against the linoleum. Her husband, Derek, followed behind, looking uncomfortable in an expensive suit. Their 2 children, Sophia, 16, and Marcus, 13, were glued to their phones. "Mom, we can't do the restaurant," Jennifer announced, not even apologizing for being late. "Derek has a client dinner at 7, and the kids have plans. We'll just do cake here." I was at the front desk sorting mail, but I could hear everything. Dorothy's face fell. "Oh, I thought we were going to Romano's. You said, 'Plans change,' Mother." Jennifer's voice had this edge to it. "Besides, why would we spend $200 on dinner when you're perfectly happy eating the food here?" "I just thought, for my birthday?" "Mom." Jennifer sighed dramatically. "Not everyone can afford to throw money around. Some of us have actual responsibilities, private school tuition, mortgage payments, country club dues. We're not all content living in," she gestured vaguely at the lobby, "basic accommodations." What happened next made my stomach turn. They gathered in the small community room where I'd helped set up a store-bought cake. Jennifer kept checking her watch. Derek made a phone call in the corner. The grandchildren never looked up from their devices. "Can we at least take a family photo?" Dorothy asked quietly. "Fine." "Make it quick." Jennifer positioned herself at the far end, as if trying to maintain distance from her mother and the shabby community room. "Sophia, Marcus, stand up straight. I don't want this looking like we're in some poverty situation." Marcus, at least, looked uncomfortable. "Mom, that's Grandma's home." "Hush!" Jennifer snapped. They took the photo. Dorothy blew out the candles alone, while her family stood awkwardly around her. No one sang. When it came time to cut the cake, Jennifer pulled out a small gift bag. "Here," she said, handing it over. "It's practical." Inside was a 6-pack of generic cotton handkerchiefs and a bottle of drugstore hand lotion. Dorothy held the handkerchiefs, and I saw her hands trembling slightly. "Thank you, sweetheart." "Well, you're always saying you need practical things," Jennifer said defensively. "I figured why waste money on something decorative when you could use something functional? I mean, it's not like you need jewelry or perfume at your age, right? Not living here." The words hung in the air like poison. "Jennifer," Derek said quietly, "that's enough." "What? I'm being practical." Jennifer looked around the modest community room with its worn furniture and dated decorations. "It's not like Mom needs expensive things. She's comfortable here. She has everything she needs. 3 meals a day, activities, other people her age. What else could she want? Dorothy set down the handkerchiefs carefully. Her voice, when she spoke, was barely above a whisper. I want my daughter to respect me. Jennifer rolled her eyes. Don't be dramatic, Mom. I'm here. Aren't I, on your birthday? When I could be doing 100 other things, you should be grateful. Grateful? Something shifted in Dorothy's expression. Yes, grateful. Do you know what this place costs me every month? The basic fee plus your medication management plus all the little extras? And you've never contributed a dime. You and Dad never saved anything. You lived paycheck to paycheck your whole lives, and now I'm stuck. She caught herself. I mean, now I'm helping support you in your retirement. Stuck supporting me, Dorothy repeated slowly. I didn't mean it like that, Jennifer backtracked, but her tone suggested she absolutely meant it. I just mean, it would be nice if you showed a little appreciation for everything Derek and I do. We have our own financial pressures. Sophia wants to go to Yale. That's $90,000 a year. Marcus needs orthodontics. We're planning to remodel the kitchen, and here you are expecting fancy birthday dinners and... I never asked you for anything, Dorothy said, her voice gaining strength. You live in an assisted living facility that I pay for. That's asking for plenty. The room went silent. Even the grandchildren looked up from their phones. Dorothy stood slowly, with the careful dignity of someone gathering their composure. I think you should go now. Mom, please leave. Jennifer's face flushed. Fine. Come on, everyone. Clearly we're not appreciated here. She grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door, family trailing behind. At the threshold, she turned back. You know what, Mom? Maybe if you'd been smarter with money your whole life, you wouldn't be in this position. Maybe if Dad had been more ambitious instead of being content with his boring accounting job, you'd have something now. But you don't, so maybe don't act like you're too good for handkerchiefs. The door slammed. Dorothy stood there, alone in the community room, staring at the half-eaten cake and the gift bag. Then she sat down very carefully, folded her hands in her lap, and stared at nothing. I approached quietly. Mrs. Johnson, can I get you anything? She looked up at me with eyes that were dry but devastated. Would you help me make a phone call, dear? I need to speak with my attorney. The discovery. I learned the rest of the story over the following weeks, pieced together from overheard conversations and Dorothy's quiet confidences during our afternoon teas. Robert Johnson hadn't just been an accountant. He'd been a brilliant accountant with a gift for investments. For 40 years, he'd lived modestly while carefully building a portfolio: stocks, bonds, real estate investments, mutual funds. They'd never spent lavishly because they didn't need to. Their joy came from simple pleasures and from the security they were building for their family's future. When Robert died 6 years earlier, he'd left everything to Dorothy. The estate was worth $4.7 million. Dorothy had chosen to live at Riverside Gardens not because she couldn't afford better, but because she'd lived simply her whole life and saw no reason to change. The community was comfortable, safe, and friendly. Why did she need a mansion? She'd been paying her own fees all along, from a checking account funded by modest monthly transfers from her investment accounts. Jennifer had simply assumed she was paying, and Dorothy had never corrected her. Let her daughter feel like she was helping, Dorothy had thought. Let her feel needed. The $4.7 million had been earmarked in Dorothy's will for Jennifer and the grandchildren: college funds, down payments on homes, financial security for generations. After that birthday, Dorothy called her attorney and rewrote everything. I was there a month later when Jennifer arrived for her usual monthly visit, looking annoyed at having to waste a Saturday afternoon. She found her mother in the community room, as usual, but this time Dorothy wasn't alone. Next to her sat her attorney, Mr. Patterson, no relation to the wealthy Mrs. Patterson upstairs, with a briefcase open on the table. Jennifer, please sit, Dorothy said calmly. Mom, I don't have time for sit. Down. Something in Dorothy's tone made Jennifer obey. Mr. Patterson, please explain the changes. The attorney cleared his throat. Mrs. Miller, your mother has revised her estate plan. Previously, you were the primary beneficiary of an estate valued at approximately $4.7 million. Jennifer's jaw dropped. What? Consisting of investment accounts, real estate holdings, and other assets accumulated by your father over his lifetime and managed by your mother since his passing. $4.7 million. Jennifer looked like she might faint. But you said you live here. I live here because I'm comfortable here, Dorothy said quietly, not because I have to. And you let me think all this time? You let me believe I was supporting you? You assumed I never asked you for money. I never needed you to pay for anything. Jennifer turned to the attorney, desperate. And the new will? The bulk of the estate, approximately $4.5 million, is now divided equally between your children, Sophia and Marcus, in trusts they'll access at age 30. This includes full funding for their college educations, graduate school if they choose, and down payments for their first homes. And me, Jennifer's voice cracked. You received $25,000. Your mother felt this was fair, given your expressed concerns about your own financial obligations. Jennifer stared at her mother, eyes wide with shock and growing horror. Mom, please, I didn't mean... You meant every word, Dorothy said, and for the first time since I'd known her, she sounded truly tired. You were embarrassed by me, by your father's memory, by the life we built, a life that was good and honest and, yes, comfortable. I was just frustrated. I didn't know. That I had money? Would you have treated me with respect if you'd known? Would you have loved me more? Dorothy shook her head. The saddest part, Jennifer, is that you judged me for not being wealthy while standing in $200 shoes I bought for you last Christmas. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you are. Now that you know about the money, I'm sure you're very sorry. The words landed like stones. The grandchildren will be provided for, Dorothy continued. They'll have opportunities your father and I never had. But they'll also learn, from their grandmother's example, that wealth isn't about appearances. It's about security, generosity, and dignity. Please, Jennifer whispered. Let me make this right. Dorothy was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I'll leave the trust provisions in place. But the rest, we'll see. Real change takes time, Jennifer. Real respect isn't conditional on bank statements. She stood up, gathering her crossword puzzle book. Mr. Patterson, thank you for coming. Jennifer, I'm tired. You can see yourself out. As I watched Jennifer leave, stumbling, pale, shattered, I couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. Would she learn? Would she change? Could a relationship recover from such profound disrespect, even with remorse? I don't know the answer. But I do know this. Dorothy Johnson sits in that community room every afternoon, doing her crosswords with the same quiet dignity she's always had. She doesn't need a mansion to prove her worth. She never did. And now, the whole facility looks at her a little differently. Not because of the money, most residents don't know about that, but because of the way she carries herself. Like someone who knows exactly who she is and doesn't need anyone else's approval to validate it. Last week, Marcus came to visit his grandmother alone. No phone, no attitude, just a teenage boy who sat with his grandmother for 3 hours, listening to stories about his grandfather and asking questions about life. Jennifer hasn't been back since that day in the community room. The question everyone at Riverside Gardens asks now is, will she return? Can she humble herself enough to rebuild what she destroyed? And if she does come back, will Dorothy forgive her? I'm watching, waiting. Because if there's one thing I've learned from Dorothy Johnson, it's that the most powerful stories are the ones that teach us what truly matters, and sometimes those lessons cost more than we're willing to pay.